What happens when a CEO trades his office for the heat of the kitchen, only to see a chef throw a knife inches from a young prep cook's face? Harlen Rivers stood in the back corner of his sleek office, trying to make sense of the payroll report laid out on the table. 18 restaurants across 3 states, and yet, location number 9, Weston Avenue, had turnover numbers nearly double the rest. Sick days were through the roof, customer complaints too, but oddly, food quality stayed high. "Something's not adding up," he muttered. Harlen had inherited the company from his father 5 years ago. At first, he'd tried to stay involved in the day-to-day. But as the business grew, so did the distance between him and the kitchens. Now, all he got were filtered reports and tight-lipped district managers. He leaned back in his chair. "I need to see it for myself." 3 days later, no one at the Weston Avenue location batted an eye when a scruffy, broad-shouldered man named Harry showed up in a grease-stained cap and a faded flannel shirt. Harlen made sure the facial hair was thick, the glasses cheap, and the voice a little slower than his usual tone. It worked. This was a corporate chain, and most employees had never met the owner, let alone seen his face. Harlen had never stepped foot in this location before. "New guy?" the manager grunted without looking up. "Yep, Harry, I'm just here to train for a week. Got transferred from the Easton branch," Harlen lied smoothly. The manager, a wiry man named Troy, waved him off. "Go to the back, you're prep. Don't slow him down." Back in the kitchen, the noise was constant. Pots clanged, orders barked, shoes screeched on the slippery tile. Harlen tied on an apron and was immediately put to slicing onions by a girl who looked no older than 20. "I'm Kendra," she said, not smiling. "You'll want to keep your head down. Chef gets twitchy." "Twitchy?" She just nodded toward the swinging doors. A tall, red-faced man in a white coat stormed in. The room seemed to freeze. "Who put the damn arugula on table 7? He roared. "That was supposed to be spinach." No one answered. The chef later introduced as Owen grabbed a tray and slammed it onto the counter so hard it bounced. Then he glared at a timid prep cook, a lanky kid with shaky hands named Miles. "You hear me, rat boy? That you?" Miles didn't get a chance to answer. Owen turned and hurled a paring knife at the stainless steel counter beside him. It clanged, bounced, then spun to a stop inches from Miles's hip. Harlan's heart slammed in his chest. "Hey!" he shouted, stepping forward without thinking. Owen turned, eyes wild. "Who the hell are you?" "I'm Harry, new guy." Owen sneered. "Then stay in your damn lane." Harlan swallowed his anger. He looked at Miles, whose face had gone pale. Kendra nudged him. "Don't make waves. You'll just get sent home." "Is this normal?" Harlan whispered. She didn't answer. The rest of the day blurred by in heat and noise. Owen barked, threw plates, swore at staff. Nobody pushed back. Troy, the manager, didn't step in once. After close, Harlan helped Kendra clean the prep table. "You okay?" he asked. "That whole thing with the knife." She gave a tired laugh. "That was nothing. Last week he smashed a blender because someone put the cap on wrong." "Why doesn't anyone say anything?" Kendra shrugged. "We need the paycheck. Miles has a baby on the way. Chef's got the district manager in his back pocket anyway. They're old friends." Harlan was quiet for a moment. Then he asked, "Why do you stay?" She wiped her hands dry. "Because someone has to watch out for the new hires. And I like the work. Just not the yelling." Later that night, Harlan sat in his car, still wearing the apron. His mind raced. He'd seen toxic kitchens before. But this wasn't just stress or high standards. This was fear. Fear that kept good employees quiet and let one man run wild. He looked down at his hands, still smelling faintly of garlic and steel, and whispered, "How did I let this happen?" He knew one thing. He couldn't just watch anymore. The next morning, Harlan arrived early before sunrise. The loading dock behind the restaurant was quiet except for the low hum of the walk-in fridge. A light drizzle hit the concrete, mixing with the lingering smell of fryer oil. He leaned against the wall, arms crossed, watching the back door. A few minutes later, Miles showed up. His hoodie was soaked through at the shoulders, and he looked like he hadn't slept. "You walk here?" Harlan asked. Miles hesitated, then nodded. "Bus stop's running early. Closest it gets is the gas station off Milford. I walk from there. That's like a mile out, Harlan said. Yeah, it's not bad when it's dry. They went inside together. The kitchen was cold, the air thick with yesterday's grease. Harlan tied his apron slowly, watching Miles unpack the produce delivery. You ever think of transferring? Harlan asked, opening a box of green peppers. If I ask, Troy says it'll look like I can't handle pressure. Miles kept his eyes on the cutting board. I can't afford to get flagged. Harlan nodded, keeping his expression neutral. He didn't want to tip his hand, but his stomach was tight. The air inside this place felt heavy, like everyone was waiting for something to go wrong. By 7, the rest of the kitchen staff had filtered in. Owen stormed in 5 minutes later, barking orders before he even put on his apron. Prep station's a mess, he snapped. Who closed last night? No one answered. Harlan saw Kendra glance at the floor. Owen pointed at a bus tub of unwashed greens. You people gonna start doing the damn job, or am I gonna have to? He didn't wait for a reply. He spun around and kicked the tub across the floor. Water and lettuce exploded across the tile. Harlan stepped forward. Want me to re-wash those? Owen shot him a look. You got ears? Get a mop. Harlan grabbed the mop bucket, jaw tight. As he worked, he watched Owen walk down the line, poking fingers into containers, tossing lids aside, muttering insults under his breath. A server named Danny walked in to grab the first few tickets. She was young, maybe 19, with a pinched expression and her hair pulled back so tight it looked painful. Owen stopped her with a hand. Tuck your shirt in. You look like a slob. Danny tugged at her shirt. It's tucked, chef. He stepped closer. Then maybe it's the posture. You slouch like a damn slacker. Danny said nothing. Her ears turned red. Harlan watched as she turned and walked off without a word. She didn't come back for 10 minutes. By mid-morning, the kitchen was slammed. Weekend brunch. Orders backed up. Harlan worked the prep counter next to Kendra, slicing mushrooms and sorting herbs. Troy wandered in from the front, sipping a coffee. We're out of hollandaise again, he announced flatly. Owen tossed a pan onto the stove. Maybe if you actually ordered enough eggs for once, we wouldn't run out. Troy shrugged. Not my problem. Sort it out. Kendra muttered under her breath. It's always our fault when he forgets the order sheet, Harlan whispered back. You ever tell anyone above him? We don't know who's above him, she said. Regional used to stop by once a quarter. Hasn't been around in almost a year. That explained a lot. Just before the lunch rush, Harlan spotted Troy taking a seat in the back booth on the clock with 2 friends. They were laughing over beers, which weren't technically allowed to be served before 11. No one said anything. Owen walked past and tossed a dirty towel toward Miles. It hit the floor. Clean that up, Junior. Don't just stand there. Miles bent down quickly, face tight. His hands were shaking again. Harlan stepped in. He's cleaning the fryer. I got it. Owen turned. You offering to take over trash too, hero? If it helps the line run smoother, sure, Harlan said evenly. Owen stared at him. You trying to impress someone? No, just trying to keep service moving. Owen didn't reply, but he didn't argue again. That silence said a lot more than words. By late afternoon, Harlan's shoulders ached and his hands were raw from prep. He followed Kendra into the walk-in fridge to restock the salad station. You always this steady? She asked, checking for arugula. I've worked in kitchens before, he said. Smaller ones, family-owned. Then you get it. She looked up at him. This place has good bones, but we're bleeding people. 2 dishwashers quit last week. Troy said they weren't committed. You think they left because of Chef Owen? I think they left because no one listens. Doesn't matter how hard you work if you're not in the circle. They grind you down. Harlan leaned against the shelf. Who's in the circle? Owen, Troy, that guy from corporate they play poker with. Forget his name. They keep it tight. She stepped back out into the kitchen. Harlan followed, thoughts whirling. That evening, after close, Harlan stayed behind. The staff had cleared out, and Troy was at his usual booth, counting out tips from the bar drawer, something that should have been handled by the shift lead, not the general manager. Harlan walked up and sat across from him. Troy didn't look up. You need something? I wanted to ask about the schedule next week. Talk to Owen. He approves the line hours. I thought that was your job. Troy leaned back, finally meeting his eyes. "You're new? Let me explain how this works. Owen runs the kitchen, I run the floor. If you've got a problem, maybe this place isn't a good fit. Understood?" Harlen didn't blink. "Crystal." Troy pushed his chair back and left the table. The next morning, Harlen made a call from his car before walking in. He didn't use his regular line, just a secured number his assistant had set up for emergencies. One call to HR and one to legal. He gave them 3 names and 1 address. Then he got out, pulled on his apron, and walked through the back door. Inside, Owen was already yelling about a missing shipment. Kendra was slicing tomatoes. Miles was scrubbing a grill that hadn't been degreased in weeks. Harlen stepped into the kitchen, eyes focused. He wasn't Harry anymore. And by the end of the day, nobody in that building would forget who he really was. By the time the lunch rush hit, Harlen had been back in the Weston Avenue kitchen for less than an hour, and had already witnessed Owen throw a saucepan across the line. It clipped the edge of the prep station and spilled bechamel all over the floor. Nobody said a word. They just moved around it. Harlen didn't wait any longer. He stepped onto the line, removed his apron, and walked straight past the fryers, past the steam table, and through the swinging doors. The dining room was half full. Families, a couple of college kids, 2 men in suits. Troy was leaning against the bar, sipping a soda. He saw Harlen coming and raised an eyebrow. "Where's your apron, Harry?" "My name's not Harry." The room didn't go silent, but it changed. The low hum of conversation stayed, but the energy shifted. Harlen spoke clearly, not loud, but with weight. "I'm Harlen Rivers, founder and CEO of this company." Troy didn't move. His expression didn't change much, but the glass in his hand lowered slightly. "What kind of joke is this?" Harlen pulled a thin, worn leather wallet from his back pocket and laid a company ID card on the bar. It was old, but unmistakable. His name, full title, and photo were clear under the plastic. "I've been working in your kitchen for the past 3 days. I've seen enough." Troy glanced toward the kitchen doors. "This isn't the place." "It's exactly the place." Harlen turned back toward the kitchen and pushed through the doors. Owen was yelling again, something about missing lamb stock. Harlen didn't stop. He walked straight up to him. "You, step away from the line." Owen blinked. "What?" "You're done." The kitchen froze. Literally no one moved. "What the hell are you talking about?" Owen barked. "You don't talk to me like that in my kitchen." "It's not your kitchen," Harlen said. "It's mine, and you're finished. Go to the office. Now." Owen looked around, waiting for someone to back him up. No one did. Kendra paused in the middle of wiping down a cutting board. Her hand trembled slightly, but her eyes never left Owen's. "You can't do this," Owen started again. "I can, and I am," Harlen said. "You threw a knife at a prep cook 2 nights ago. You've created a culture of fear, aggression, and hostility. You're done." Owen opened his mouth again, but the door to the walk-in opened, and Miles stepped out carrying a tray of cleaned herbs. He stopped cold when he saw Owen staring him down. Harlen turned to him. "You okay?" Miles nodded slowly, eyes wide. "Go grab a seat in the break room," Harlen said. "You've done more than enough today." Owen didn't move. "Walk," Harlen said again, this time to Troy, who had come through the doors behind him. "Take him to the office, collect his things. You'll be joining him." Troy scoffed. "You're firing both of us? What for?" "For negligence, intimidation, and fostering a toxic culture that's costing this business good people and good money," Harlen said. "You've been drinking on shift, mismanaging labor, and ignoring every red flag this team has been trying to survive under." Troy's voice dropped. "You have no idea what it's like down here. We do what we have to do to keep it running." "You've done the bare minimum and called it leadership," Harlen said. "You can both leave, now." Troy didn't argue again. Owen muttered something under his breath and stormed past the dish pit. Troy followed, glancing back only once. The kitchen stayed silent. Harlen looked around the line. "Everyone take 5, he said. "Go sit. Hydrate. You've earned it." No one moved right away. Then Kendra set her knife down. Danny stepped off the expo line. One by one, they put down their tools. Harlen turned to the sous chef, a quiet man named Luis, who hadn't said much since Harlen had arrived. "You've been here how long?" Luis wiped his hands on a towel. 4 years. You ever been given a chance to run a shift? Luis hesitated, then shook his head. Owen didn't let anyone touch the board but him. Harlen nodded. That changes today. You're running the kitchen for the rest of the evening. You up for it? Luis blinked. Yes, sir. Don't call me sir, Harlen said. Just do the job. He stepped out of the kitchen and into the dining room. Two guests at a corner booth were watching closely. Harlen walked over. Apologies for the disruption, he said. We had some internal issues that needed to be dealt with. Your server will be right over. One of them nodded. Honestly, that was the most honest thing I've seen in a restaurant in a long time. Harlen smiled politely and went back toward the host stand. He pulled out his phone and called the regional HR officer directly. I need 2 interim hires on location by morning, he said, and I want a compliance audit scheduled before the week is out. Start interviews for a new general manager. We'll promote from inside if we can. After hanging up, he looked back toward the kitchen. Kendra was helping the new dishwasher reset the station. Miles had returned and was slicing ginger quietly, more relaxed than Harlen had ever seen him. He stepped back into the kitchen. I'll be staying nearby this week, he said. We're going to fix this. And not just here, we're doing a site review company-wide. This should never have happened. Luis looked up from the board. What do you want us to do next? Run service, the right way. Kendra stepped forward. Are we allowed to make changes? Menu prep, flow, that kind of thing? Bring me suggestions, Harlen said. If they make sense, we implement. No more top-down decisions without ground-level input. She nodded and returned to her station. The line came back to life, but with a different rhythm. Orders were called with calm focus. No shouting, no slammed pans. For the first time, the kitchen felt like a team. Harlen spent the rest of the day rotating between stations, listening more than talking. Danny offered a better way to organize the to-go orders. The dishwasher, a quiet guy named Jerome, pointed out that half the cleaning products were expired. Luis shifted the order board to give more space to the grill team. Small things, but they added up fast. By closing time, the place looked different. Not cleaner, not quieter, just lighter. Harlen stood outside in the alley behind the restaurant, watching the staff file out. Kendra was laughing about something with Luis. Miles offered a ride to Jerome, who looked surprised but nodded. Harlen pulled out his phone again. Yeah, he said. I'll be at Weston all week. But once we've got interim leadership in place, I want to visit Easton next. And after that, Framingham. He paused. No more distance. Not ever again. 3 weeks later, Harlen Rivers stepped through the front doors of the Weston Avenue location, again, not in disguise this time, but in his usual dark blazer and worn leather shoes. The place didn't look different at a glance, but the energy in the air was quieter, steadier. He was there to follow up, not to inspect. This time, he'd see what stuck. Luis met him at the host stand with a clipboard in one hand and a towel slung over his shoulder. His apron was streaked with flour, and a pen was tucked behind his ear. Morning, Luis said, offering a handshake that was firm, but not rushed. We're good on prep, but the fish delivery's running late again. I've got Jerome checking the loading dock. Harlen nodded once. Thanks. Let's keep an eye on it. We don't compromise on freshness. Luis made a note and turned back toward the kitchen. Harlen followed. Inside, the team was working with a kind of rhythm that only came from mutual respect. Nobody was coasting. But nobody was tensed up either. The shouting, the slamming, the dread, it was gone. The kitchen walls had been scrubbed down. The whiteboard above the expo line now had color-coded notes, staff tips, rotation reminders, upcoming training sessions. A laminated sheet taped to the walk, indoor outlined kitchen roles and reporting channels. Something Harlen had requested be made visible in every location going forward. Kendra was over at the prep station, guiding a new hire through julienne cuts. Her tone was calm, direct, and clear. Grip higher on the blade, not the handle. It'll give you more control. The kid adjusted his hands awkwardly but listened closely. You've taken to teaching, Harlen said as he approached. She glanced over, not stopping her movements. Someone has to. We've had 2 new hires this week. One's solid. The other's green but willing. You're officially our training lead as of today, Harlen said. It comes with a raise and a say in all onboarding procedures starting next quarter. She froze for a moment, knife still in hand, then looked at him. You're serious? You've earned it. She didn't smile. Instead, she exhaled, like she'd been holding her breath for days. I'll do it right, she said. I know. Harlen moved on through the line. Miles was at Sauté, working with a noticeable uptick in confidence. His movements were still careful, but no longer hesitant. He was faster, more fluid. You look steadier, Harlen said. Miles nodded. Luis has been giving me 2 hours a week to train on grill. Said once I'm consistent, I'll start getting line shifts. He will, and will cover your bus fare starting next week. HR has your address. No more walking from Milford. Miles blinked, processing that. Seriously? We take care of people who show up, Harlen said. You've shown up. He left him to it and stepped into the office where the new general manager, Elise, was reviewing supplier invoices. She was in her early 40s with experience from a different chain Harlen had recruited her from personally. She didn't speak unless she had something worth saying. Elise, he said. How's the transition? She looked up, removed her reading glasses, and leaned back. Slow, she said, but clean. We're rebuilding trust. Staff retention's already up. No call-outs this week. I've got 2 interviews scheduled for open barback positions, and a line cook shadowing tomorrow. Harlen sat across from her. Anyone pushing back? Not since the first week. I made it clear we don't tolerate power hoarding. Everyone knows what's expected. Good. She paused, then added, I'm rotating shifts on weekends. I want every team to know I'm not just a clipboard behind a door. That's exactly why I brought you in. Harlen stood and was about to head back out when Elise said, What about the others? He turned slightly. Easton, Framingham, she said. You said this wasn't isolated. It wasn't, he replied. I've visited 6 sites in the last 15 days. 3 had strong culture. 1 needed restructuring. 2 were worse than this. But the difference is now we're watching, and I'm not relying on filtered reports anymore. You're doing what every CEO should have been doing from the beginning. He didn't argue. Back in the kitchen, the lunch rush was beginning. Orders started trickling through the system, and the team moved into position. No one barked. No one dragged their feet. It was work messy, fast, sweaty, but it wasn't chaos anymore. Danny passed by with a tray of plated entrees. She paused when she saw Harlen. I've been meaning to say, she said, the extra week of PTO, that meant I could visit my sister for the first time in 2 years. He didn't ask for the details. He just nodded. That's what it's there for. She headed out to the floor. By mid-shift, the line was humming. Harlen stepped aside, staying out of the team's way. Elise came in briefly to check on a delivery. Kendra gave a quick rundown of the inventory updates. Luis adjusted ticket flow to balance the load. No single moment looked extraordinary, but that was the point. This was sustainability, not a flashy fix. Not a press release, just people doing their jobs without fear. Later that evening, after cleanup, the kitchen lights dimmed down to closing levels. Most of the staff had clocked out. Harlen stepped out back where Jerome was finishing the trash run. You doing all right? Harlen asked. Jerome wiped his hands on a rag. Yeah, this crew's solid. No one dumps stuff on me anymore. You ever think about cross-training? Jerome tilted his head. Like kitchen work? If you want it, Harlen said. We've got a station that opens in 2 weeks. You'd need to start learning now. Jerome grinned. I'm game, just don't expect miracles. No one's asking for miracles, just effort. Harlen walked back inside, up to the break room. He passed a small corkboard now filled with handwritten notes, schedule swaps, birthday reminders, even a few doodles. It looked alive. He made one final walk through the kitchen, checking details labels on containers, timers on the proofing dough, towels folded properly. Then he stepped through the front doors and into the cool night. He didn't need to return tomorrow. Elise had things under control. The staff had been given the tools, the support, and the authority to lead. But more importantly, they had someone listening now. As Harlen locked his car door, he looked back once at the restaurant's glowing sign. It wasn't perfect, it never would be, but it was honest again. And that was enough to build on.